It's been 3 decades since a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup. Montreal in 1993. But this year could be their best shot yet. Maybe. 6 Canadian teams could make the playoffs, which would be the most since 2017. 7 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. Look, even Ottawa made the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying a Canadian team winning the cup is a sure thing. I'm not saying that at all. But the more tickets you buy to the raffle, the better chance you have at winning the prize. Comprende? Okay, let's look at the teams who are basically locked into a playoff spot. And let's begin in the Eastern Conference, and we'll start with the Toronto Maple Leafs. As it stands, the Leafs are tied atop the Atlantic Division with the Florida Panthers and are chasing that Atlantic Division title. Something they haven't won in the Austin Matthews era. Would be a pretty big thing to do considering they haven't had much success in the past, 9 years? So it's going to be pretty important to win that division title. Regardless, I'll get to that. They basically have a 99.9% chance of making the playoffs. They're locked in. Also in the Eastern Conference, the Ottowa Senators. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they're in. Since the calendar turned over to March, the Ottowa Senators have been one of the hottest teams in the NHL, bar none. They've been fantastic, and it's one of the reasons why they're in the number 1 wildcard spot at the moment. They got 14 games to play, and they're 5 points up on the New York Rangers and the New York Islanders. Do I trust either of those two teams? Absolutely not. The Rangers have had an up and down season since the start of the season, and nothing really has changed. Yes, they got good goaltending. They got good goal scoring in Panarin. They got Chris Kreider there. They've added JT Miller. I just don't think it's enough to catch the Ottawa Senators. So I'm putting the Ottawa Senators in the playoffs. They're locked in with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the East. Let's go to the West and talk about the best team in the West and the team that has been the best team in the West since the start of the NHL season. And that's the Winnipeg Jets, who are chasing a President's Trophy. They're on 100 points. They're the second best team in the league, just behind the Washington Capitals on points percentage only. They are locked in. They are a force. They're going to the playoffs. The Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid and co. Or should I say Leon Draisaitl and co. He's had a better season than McDavid, and he's probably going to win a Hart Trophy over Nathan MacKinnon, and that's crazy to say considering how good of a season that Nathan MacKinnon is having. The guy's putting up points every single night, and his team got better somehow after trading Mikko Rantanen. Anyway, that's for another video. Edmonton, locked into a playoff spot. They're actually chasing down the Vegas Golden Knights for the Pacific Division title, which would be big for them. But it looks like they're going to lock horns with the Kings once again for the 4th straight season in a row. So home ice advantage will be big for them. Regardless, they're in the playoffs. They made the cup last year. They're one of the favorites to win it again. Now to the bubble teams, and this is where things get interesting. The Montreal Canadiens in the Eastern Conference are currently in the 2nd wildcard spot. If you were to say that sentence at the beginning of the season or in preseason, no one would believe you. But that's what's happening right now. The Montreal Canadiens, just like the Ottowa Senators, are one of the hottest teams in the NHL. I'm putting them in. And I know that's kind of crazy to say, but I like where they're headed. I like how they're playing. I like their home ice advantage. They have that mojo. They have that, whatever the Bell Center and Montreal gives that team, they have that right now. And if I were to power rank them against the other teams chasing down that 2nd wildcard spot, I mean, we're looking at Montreal, the Rangers, the Islanders, and the Jackets. Maybe the Jackets second behind the Montreal Canadiens, but they've slipped off as well. Like I said, the Rangers have been a disaster all season long. And okay, the Islanders have kind of turned it around. Patrick Waugh called out Engvall. He's starting to score goals, but how long is that going to last? Do you really trust the Islanders? No! Give me the Habs. Give me the Bell Center. I like the Habs to get into the playoffs. Okay, and now in the West, you have the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames both battling for that 2nd wildcard spot. They're chasing down the St. Louis Blues, who are 7-2-1 in their last 10 games and have decided to turn it on. They also got Jordan Binnington over there, who is actually still a good goalie, and he proved that at the Four Nations. So chasing them down is going to be extremely difficult. So let's look at the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, what kind of season have they had? Imagine preseason someone told you that the Canucks are going to struggle to get into the playoffs based on the way that they played in the playoffs last season? You tell me that team wouldn't want another shot at the Edmonton Oilers? But that might not be the case right now because they got to chase down a really good team in the Blues, and they got to fend off the Calgary Flames, who shouldn't be in that position, but are getting good goaltending. Kadri's having a really good season. Huberdeau's having a bounce-back season. Uyghur's having a great year. There's a lot of things going right for the Calgary Flames. But I don't think either of these teams get in. I really don't. But they're on the bubble, so you never know. So who are my 6? Well, if you listen to anything I just said, I don't have 6. I'm going to go with 5 because I don't think Vancouver or Calgary has enough to overcome the St. Louis Blues in that second wildcard spot. Plus, the Blues have a better schedule. They have one of the easiest remaining schedules in the NHL. I like the way that they're playing. They have pedigree. They have a very, very good coach in Jim Montgomery, who's been there before, and a really good goaltender, like I mentioned. I'm going Blues over Vancouver and Calgary, which leaves me with 5 Canadian teams. And now the all-important question, who actually has a shot to make a deep run in the playoffs? Which one of these Canadian teams has the best chance at breaking the 31-year curse? 31 years a Canadian team hasn't won a Stanley Cup. 31 years, dude. When the Montreal Canadiens beat the Los Angeles Kings in the Cup final. 1993, on the back of Patrick Waugh. How the hell has it been 31 years? Someone's got to break this curse. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Let's start with Toronto in the East. They need to win their division, because if they don't, they're going to play Tampa Bay most likely, and Florida's going to win the division. Which means if you somehow get past the Tampa Bay Lightning, which the Leafs have a pretty good record against, you got the Florida Panthers, who, I think they're the best team probably in the league. Once healthy, once they get Matthew Tkachuk back, Brad Marchand back, Aaron Ekblad back, you got Bobrovsky in between the pipes, Sam Bennett's having a career year, Carter Verhaeghe is one of the best playoff performers in the last 3 or 4 seasons. Go look at the numbers. Game winners everywhere. Sam Reinhart, Barkov, man, Seth Jones. How are you going to beat this team? Nico Mikkola, Nico Norris. They have to win the division. Win the division, play a wild card team, maybe Montreal, maybe Ottawa, probably Ottawa. And then that's a favorable matchup. Still difficult. The Battle of Ontario, it's not going to be easy, but you're going up against a team in Ottawa who doesn't really have that experience. Brady Tkachuk's never played in the playoffs. Okay, you got the Four Nations, never played in the playoffs. Linus Ullmark is a really good goalie. He's won a Vezina, hasn't proven it in the playoffs. So from the Leafs, that's a matchup that I want. Not Vasilevsky or Bobrovsky. Not again, please. Winnipeg. Okay. Excellent. Hellebuck's going to win the Vezina. Best team in the West. Could finish the regular season as the best team in the NHL. They're going to have a favorable first-round matchup, probably against St. Louis, maybe Vancouver or Calgary. Don't think so. It's probably going to be St. Louis. Maybe Utah sneaks in there. Regardless, they should win that first-round matchup. But there's some ghosts of yesteryear circling around because Hellebuck hasn't been that great in the playoffs. So that's my big concern with Winnipeg. But if they get past the first round, even more concerning, you're going to play Dallas, you're going to play Colorado, and if you get past that round, then you're looking at Vegas or Edmonton. That's a tough road, dude. I cannot say for sure that the Winnipeg Jets are going to make a deep run because after they get out of the first round, if they get out of the first round, they got Dallas or Colorado. Good luck. Oh, the Edmonton Oilers. What are they going to do? Well, they just got some bad news because as of recording this, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are week to week with an injury. Don't know when they're going to come back. Don't know how good they're going to be when they come back. I'm sure they're going to be fine. Maybe it's a bit of extra rest, but that is concerning. Regardless, my number one concern with the Oilers, do you trust Stuart Skinner? I don't. I know he was with them and he was excellent in the playoffs, and he's one of the reasons why the Oilers made the Stanley Cup Finals last year and took it all the way to Game 7. I understand. But let's not forget that in those playoffs, he sat at times in very important games, and Calvin Pickard took over the number 1 spot. I don't like that. And I don't like the way he's been playing this season either. Now let's look at the matchups. Probably getting the Kings. Home ice advantage is huge because the Kings are the best home team in the NHL and probably going to finish with that record as well. You do not want them to get home ice advantage. That's going to make your first round that much more difficult. So if you somehow get past the Kings for the 4th straight time in a row, 4 times in a row, 4th time might be the charm for the Kings, then who do you got? Who do you got waiting for you? The Vegas Golden Knights. If they beat Minnesota, which I think they probably will beat Minnesota. So you probably got Vegas Golden Knights. Then if you beat them, Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas. Tough run. Can they do it? Of course. Do you trust Skinner? I don't. So we'll see. Back to the East. Let's talk about the Ottowa Senators. And I kind of mentioned this when I was talking about the Leafs, but not much experience when it comes to the playoffs. They haven't been there since 2017. Their captain, Brady Tkachuk, has never played in the playoffs. Like I mentioned with Linus Ullmark. He's been good in like these little stretches throughout the season. but he hasn't put together just a nice 15, 20 game run. And he doesn't have to do that in the playoffs, but I have questions around him. You know, he's one of the best goalies for a couple of seasons, but in the playoffs, no, you didn't see it. You didn't see it. He lost his spot essentially to Jeremy Swayman in his last year with Boston. Can he, find that Vezina regular season form in the playoffs? Maybe. Goalie gets hot. It can take you far. We've seen it before. We saw Carey Price do it not that long ago. Took the Canadiens in the bubble during COVID to the Stanley Cup final. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. But I think the first round, if they play the Toronto Maple Leafs, it'll be an exciting matchup. I can see that one going 6, maybe even 7 games. But I think the Leafs might just have a bit too much for the Sens. And if it's not the Leafs, then it's the Panthers. And, the Sens aren't beating the Panthers in the first round. There's just no way that's happening. So that leaves us with the Montreal Canadiens, and I think they're just going to be really happy to be there because their biggest achievement is going to be making the playoffs. Let's be completely honest, because they're not supposed to be in this position. So there could be a huge adrenaline dump once they get into the playoffs of the elation, the euphoria of making the playoffs and bringing the Stanley Cup playoffs to the Bell Center. And that energy that's there, it's fantastic. Who doesn't want to see Montreal there? Let's be real. And maybe they can use that energy from the Bell Center to win a couple of games in the first round, but it's unlikely they get through. They're most likely going to get the Washington Capitals if they finish in the second wildcard spot. Washington, likely to win the President's Trophy, maybe. Probably going to win the East, most likely going to win the East. Now, if you're Montreal Canadiens, what can you hope for? I think you can hope that maybe they get hit by the President's Trophy curse. Like when the Bruins in 2023 put together the best regular season of all time, what happened? They lost the first round to the Florida Panthers. And a couple seasons before that, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Unbelievable regular season. Swept in 4 games by the Columbus Blue Jackets. These things can happen. You get a hot goalie. You get a hot team. You ride off that home ice energy that the Bell Center produces that no other stadium arena in the National Hockey League produces. Only the Bell Center can produce that type of magic. They have to rely on that. I don't think it's going to be enough. But you never know. A deep run, unlikely. I think the deep runs come from potentially, and this is, I'm scared to say this, the Toronto Maple Leafs. If they get past if they win a division, get past the first round, they have a pretty good shot at making the Stanley Cup final. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. Winnipeg, Hellebuck. It all relies on Hellebuck. If Hellebuck can be the Hellebuck we see in the regular season, he's the best goalie in the NHL. You ride that hot goalie with that defense, they're rolling those 3 unbelievable lines. Their third line is one of the best third lines in the league. Adam Lowry, what a player, dude. Scheifele's having a career year. Kyle Connors, the guy doesn't stop scoring. Ehlers doesn't stop scoring. Velarde, power play god. Josh Morrissey, they got everything. They just need the goaltending. And if they get it, Winnipeg could be another team we see in the Stanley Cup final. So I'm saying 5 get in. 3 with a legit shot. That's Winnipeg, that's Toronto, and that's Edmonton. You can't discount Edmonton. I know I kind of disrespected and bashed the goalie a bit, but he hasn't been that great. But when you have Connor McDavid, you have Leon Draisaitl, you're going to have a chance to win. So let me know. Who's your 5 or 6? And do any of them have a chance to actually make a deep run and win the thing? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to see. Who doesn't want to see that? Well, maybe Americans, but Canadians want to see that. Thanks for watching.